And at this point, then I'd like to start going through some of the different items that were brought up during comments and have a chance for either the trustees or the administration to start responding. My intention was just to kind of start going down the list as we were hearing things brought up to us. So let's start with the QR codes. Now, and I don't know this for a fact, Dr. Maleko, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming we're using QR codes during lunch for close contact tracing, so in case anything happens to any of those students, we're able to know where they're seated in a lunchroom, no different than in a classroom. But is that information shared anywhere outside of our district?
No, I mean, and QR codes have been used in our district for several years now. A lot of times we use it for academic, showing profiles. In this case, it was done in the high schools I know are coordinating. It's done for exactly that, contact tracing. It's only for the administrators. It's not shared outside anywhere. I know a lot of people may not be aware, but a lot of schools, when you go for school improvement visits, you can go into a class and see student projects. So it's a QR code is something that's kind of a norm, but it's not being used to share information. It's information that we can't legally share, to be honest. It's only for the close contact tracing, and it was an efficient manner, especially at the high schools, to be able to do that and track that ability. So that's why the QR codes, but it's not being sent anywhere else other than for the purpose of administration and obviously the nurses who would have to do the contact tracing in the event of a situation.
The next one there was a few parents that brought it up, so I'm just gonna kind of lump it together and with my opinion on it is students that have to go home either because they tested positive or they were a close contact. I sure hope that there's no one giving these kids a hard time because it's probably nothing that they did that's causing this. They could just be that they were too close to somebody else that tested positive. So I hope there is no shaming or bullying of these students by anyone. In terms of the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Nori, I think you had brought that one up. I know that the elementary schools, usually when I'm in the elementary schools at the beginning of the day, I have to figure out where the heck the nearest flag is to turn and face it for the pledge. Does it happen at the middle and high schools? Is it a school-by-school choice?
I'm going to review that with our team to see. My understanding is they did start from Dr. Chokol at Etzel today. So I don't know if it was just something that didn't happen over the first couple of weeks. I know sometimes the student, I've been there where the student broadcast group or whatever you want to call it in the morning often does it. So I don't have all the detail. I know that it's done widespread. It was done when I was a teacher, and so we'll look at that and make sure that we're implementing that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Trustee Moses.
So for the students who are in quarantine, are they given the materials and being communicated through Schoology that they still have access to it? The things that they still have to work from home? Obviously, there's no Zoom information, but why aren't we providing these students with the work that they need to complete from home?
We should be. I mean, we have the Schoology, and then it would be the same thing for students that are out for other sick reasons. Mm-hmm. You would provide accommodations and you would provide support for them. We're not Zooming. We don't have an online Zoom in option like we did last year, but we should be. And if we're not, I'd encourage parents to reach out to the teacher and the principal to get the work, and we're happy to help. We want to help, and we'll do that to provide support. So we need to be doing that, and we need to just make sure that we're communicating well with each other.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak up or not, but I personally, my experience, I spoke directly to the principal of the school. My child actually reached out through email to her teachers, and I was told directly by the principal that at this time, there is no support or anything put in place for any student who quarantines at home. And that came directly from an administrator.
So just so that the people know what the comment was that are back home watching. The student reached out by email to the teachers, and the parent reached out to the principal and was told at this point there is no system set up to get the work that's been assigned to the students so that they could complete it on their own
During quarantine.
during their quarantine.
So my child, we did go on Schoology and did what she can based on the information that was there. And anything additional, like labs, like,
Sure.
she took AD classes, anything additional that instruction in the classroom, also outside of the classroom, she had no access to it. which didn't happen. So just so you're aware.
So I'm gonna ask Dr. Choko or Ms. Faraj to give your card to the, and you can send us the information on the specific school, and we'll look into that situation. I would say that it's like what I said with providing support for students in a non-COVID year when you're out, you will not get the exact same experience as being there, but we do our best to get work sent home to provide support, and if in this case it didn't happen, we'll look into it and address that situation.
And
So we're not
Dr.
get-
Malika, we need to make sure any student, if they're out of class, is getting
Yeah.
the classwork.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'd like to add one thing to that. I know students are very traumatized when this happens to them and they have no control over it. So I would like to ask that the social worker would follow up with these students on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis. Thank you.
Ms. Faraj, did you want to add something about that, please?
I just wanted to read the statement
Oh,
from
yeah,
the
I did.
mitigation plan. It's right here in front of me. It says students who need to be quarantined will be provided with asynchronous work. Teachers will use excused absence code. So we do have it in the mitigation plan.
They're in the mitigation plan, but they are not implemented. Big difference between the two. But I appreciate you giving me that information.
All right. The next one that I believe we had was about masking on bus and the requirements. So Dr. Malika.
That is
you
a
wanna answer
federal
that?
requirement, so masks are required on buses through the federal transportation.
All right.
The requirement also is while they're loading and unloading as well.
During loading and unloading, before they're on the bus, when they're just waiting at the bus stop
Right.
or starting to walk home, they can have the masks off. That's not a requirement by us or the federal government in that case.
Right. But as you're
And-
entering the bus.
And the federal mandate is on all transportation. That's why
Yes.
you see it on trains, on any public transportation of any kind. It includes airplanes, buses, any kind, and school buses just happen to be public transportation.
I'm gonna come back to the social media, posts. There was the one question about, critical race theory, and that's been one that's been brought up the last couple of months. More information has been shared with the board, really more along the lines of what is critical race theory. And I don't believe the district has had any additional meetings on the, curriculum council about any changes. One thing, though, that I did read from the Detroit News is that the state completed its review of the history and government courses back in 2019. And I don't remember the name of the group, but some independent group gave us a B rating overall on the way we teach it. So we have been under the approved group. No,
Clarify
I'm
what
saying, the information, the way we teach history hasn't changed in the last couple of years. Since 2019, that's what was approved by the state. So there hasn't been any change since that point.
These teachers that we did find, they're not history teachers, they're actually language arts.
It's usually tied to the history subjects. But at this point, it's not been anything that's been
It's not part
brought,
of our
it
curriculum.
hasn't been brought up with any curriculum items yet.
Correct. And we've reviewed, we've had multiple conversations at cabinet and, you know, we basically have the Michigan standards and we have, you know, we do have diversity and other things, and that's how we are implementing our current curriculum. But anything would have to go through that whole long process on curriculum council, and there have been discussions, but we haven't implemented anything near, you know, with the CRT at this point. But again, we do promote diversity, training, and things of that nature, and that's within the Michigan standards.
Well, then let's go back to the social media posts. And I know most of these were in regards to one teacher, but this has been something that we had dealt with in the past as well. And then, and I forget if it was earlier this year or if it was last year, Trustee Barry, that we were dealing with one of the other teachers. So, Dr. Maleko, if you want to address that.
Sure. So, obviously, a lot of the comments that we heard, and, you know, none of us condone the comments and things of that nature. When it happens, the truth is, that everything, it is a balance, and, you know, individuals do have rights. Having said that, everything's been reviewed by our attorneys, to make sure we're in compliance with the law and protecting the students, and it has been addressed through our normal protocols with the review from our HR department and our attorneys, and I can't get into all the specifics, but what I can say, it's been addressed, and, you know, we've spoken to the teachers, and, you know, we have documentation to that effect, without mentioning any specific names for personnel. And we do that for all of our, you know, different issues that happen through HR with, you know, we have 2,700 employees, and again, we don't condone, you know, I've talked to even, you know, I know with the unions, we've done some education on just being careful with social media, so I think it applies to everyone, you know, and I recognize that obviously of being careful of what we put out, and I think everyone needs to, and I think as adults, we are role models for the students, and I know social media is really, you know, gone in many, many different directions, but with our employees, we will do what we can to protect our students under all the legalities that we're required and allowed to do. But this has been addressed, and it's been addressed in the past to, you know, address the issue with any of our employees. So that's how that's been.
I just don't understand how you can say that, and as a white person hearing those comments, thinking that my kids could be in that class. Not only that, she has those students on social media. It's an outrage. It's an outrage to hear things like that. Imagine if the roles were reversed and we talked about, you know, another race the same way. It would be an uproar. I can guarantee
The
that.
administration has had the conversations with it, so that the teacher is aware. That's, you know what, apologies, but this is not designed to be the time for an open forum and back and forth. We did our best to be able to answer questions for you on this, and we'll continue to bring it up in the future. Trustee Barry?
I heard the term earlier, it takes a village. Well, of course it takes a village, and we have to talk to each other. So when somebody comes up to the podium, thinks that they're threatening that we'll be back, no, we welcome you back. The way I understand the system, and I'm kind of like summarizing all the comments all at one time, but I want to get back to this, you know, with the teachers on social media. The way this works is the taxpayers, the residents of Dearborn, are up on top right here. They hire the 7 of us, you hire the 7 of us to represent you. We appoint a superintendent to run this district. So no, we have to talk to each other. Doesn't mean that we can or should be allowed to yell at each other or interrupt each other. We have to talk to each other at a board meeting, over the phone, meetings with the principals, meeting outside here. Just because a board member is friends with somebody on Facebook doesn't make them guilty of anything. I'm not here to defend my, you know, colleagues. I know there was, no names were mentioned, but I'm on Facebook. I'm on there maybe, you know, once or twice a week, 3 times a week at best. Doesn't mean I get to see everything, so don't judge us on that, please. Again, we need to keep this dialogue going. That's the only way we can move forward in what's in the best interest of our students, all of our students. Now, going back to the teacher, yes, or teachers. Yes, we dealt with something last year, President Thorpe, and I fully support freedom of speech. But the 7 of us, or actually the 8 of us, we're elected officials 24/7. Dr. Maleko is the superintendent of the school 24/7. There's a lot of things I'd love to put on Facebook, but I don't, because I'm an elected official. Now, as a professional, as an administrator in this district, a teacher, or any employee, I personally, can't speak for others, I personally expect you to act in a professional way. And when one post, you're admitting, you're putting it out there that I'm a teacher, then you turn around and put a post out there using cuss words and, you know, there's some other language, I'm speaking, please, some language out there that kind of, you know, you're putting your philosophy or your political stance, and you're using words that are probably not appropriate for you to be using in the classroom, but you have students as part of your network. That part I don't understand. So I know every time we get these, we reach out to a lawyer, and we have great lawyers, and they give us great advice, but me personally, we looked at the policy last year, and we thought we did a good job. Maybe we need to look at it again to kind of, you know, I don't know. If you're a teacher, I got nothing but the greatest respect. I honor teachers. I love teachers. I respect. Every chance I get, I say thank you to a teacher. And I would say out of the maybe 1,500 teachers, I would say probably 98, 90%, 99% understand that. Just that 1%. I don't know what they're thinking. I have no clue what they're thinking when they make it obvious that they're a teacher and they take selfies in their classrooms, and sometimes there's students in there, then the very next post is questionable. I know if I did that, I mean, we would have a line here to speak to me as a school board member. And rightly so, rightly so. If Dr. Maleko, I mean, the king of social media, if he puts something out there that's derogatory, I mean, I don't know, we would be, you know, the seven of us would be having a meeting to discuss this. So just like the seven of us will hold you, Dr. Maleko, you know, responsible for some of the stuff that you put out there, and you put nothing but positive things, thank you for that. I think we have to find a way to get it to our professionals to say, hey, watch yourself. We respect your, you know, your rights to freedom of speech. I mean, I'm all for that. People say 150%, there is no 150. I'm all for 100%. But at the same time, use some respect. Use some respect for the students that you're serving. Use some respect for the district that you represent. You know, and I think, I'm gonna leave it at that, Dr. Maleko, and, you know, I wanna continue. And just to be, it's the parents out there. No, we don't just talk about it here and we move on, you know. No, we follow up with Dr. Maleko, and we follow up with our legal, and there's sometimes things that we wanna do, we just can't because, you know, legal reasons, okay? And the other thing I forgot to, I wanna clarify it. No, if your student goes home because he's a contact person, please, I know Dr. Fudge, here I go again. Mrs. Fudge mentioned, you know, part of our plan, and thank you for that. We talked about it, but please reach out to your teachers. If you don't get the right response from your teachers, reach out to your administrator. If that doesn't work, reach out to Dr. Maleko, and it will be taken care of. There's no doubt in my mind. There is no reason good enough. There is no reason good enough when a student goes home because of some things that they didn't do, or maybe some things that they did do. Sometimes we suspend kids for 10 days, and we make sure they get their homework and make sure they get their books and their assignments, stuff like that. So no, this is a great district. We do some great things. We do great things in this district. I'm not gonna sit here and let some of the things that are challenging us right now get in the way. We will deal with our challenges, but we have to talk to each other with respect. Thank you.
Trustee McDonald.
I just want to bounce off of what Trustee Barry said. I agree wholeheartedly with what he said about the teachers and their professionalism. And I just wanted to add, not only that, but not just teachers, all of us adults, we have to set the example for our students. When you put something on social media, it's out there. You can't pull it back. You can't unring that bell. That represents who you are forever. It can. And that can really, really hinder your life and your goals and things that you plan on doing. So as a teacher, I am discouraged and disheartened, but we really have to set the example for our students and let them know that you have to think before you post. And you can't just put out everything there. Even your thoughts, some thoughts are meant to be your own thoughts. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Berry.
I would echo the same idea of what Mr. Trustee Barry said. I can't tell you how many times over the last 10 years you hear about somebody that's trying to apply for a job. These are usually younger professionals that didn't grow up with the same restraints that maybe we had to have. But everything you put out there then becomes public. So you better be really careful before you post things. Trustee Moses, did you have an item before I?
No, I just totally agree with the comments. Teachers, teaching is the best and noblest profession, and they should set examples for their students. So definitely watch out what you say in school as well as on social media. Social media is your face right now. Whatever you put on social media is what projects you to the world. So make the best of it. I wanted to reiterate the point about making sure the student doesn't have to reach out to teachers. If a student is being asked to quarantine, they should be given all of the materials that they need, as possible, to do the work at home with asynchronous learning according to our plan. So thank you.
Did you want to go now? Because I know Trustee Watts also did.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shingo.
Well, I think when it comes to social media, and I know I reached out to Dr. Maleko, there's something that's called the socialinstitute.com for those parents out there, because I think many of us struggle as parents to how to find this balance with social media and our children. And I think especially with not knowing what they're hearing, what they're seeing, and the online bullying. And I had mentioned this to Dr. Maleko, but this platform here on this website, it kind of helps you walk your student through or your child through what social media would look like and the positive, what a healthy interaction looks like. So I think for those who are listening, like there are, I struggle as well as a parent, how much time do I allow my child to be on there with a permanent footprint? So that's just one thing, just an FYI. And I think the other thing is that, we want our parents to say, we have to give them a clear roadmap of saying, if your child is to quarantine, and let them know now, this is what it's gonna look like, so you can plan accordingly, because businesses, you're working, you need to be able to say, what is my backup plan? And then what's the homework that they're gonna have? So I think we need to make sure, and I know that you had mentioned, Dr. Maleko, that Wayne County came through with some new mitigation plans regarding quarantines and whatnot, but just so that parents can plan accordingly. Because we don't want, nobody wants their child to have to come home from quarantine for 10 days and then you're scrambling. So just to be able to plan,
And it should be easy and convenient.
yes.
Trustee Petlicoff.
In regards to the social media, I'm going to have, we all know that we give our staff just like we give our students a code of conduct, and they understand that. But maybe we need to go a little further in a professional learning development thing where every single person gets instructions about, just like we did when we had new board members, and we sat and had MASB come in and give everybody a tutorial about what we should and shouldn't be doing as board members, kind of thing. I think we need to do the same thing with all of our staff, because quite frankly, while we have a policy in place, it should be common sense that you don't have students included as a teacher in your on your Facebook page. I mean, I just think that if you have a work environment where you're not allowed to have, a date with a coworker kind of thing, and I don't know if that's old school now, I might be dating myself kind of thing, maybe that's no longer an issue, but social media has changed the dynamics, so we don't know what the teachers are saying in the classroom, unless the kid comes home and says, hey, by the way, this is what my teacher said. But social media, it's out there, just like Trustee Barry said. I mean, you are giving away, and I will say this, it's also true with parents. You are giving away who you are when you start responding and posting on these sites, and they go into that environment. But if you're also encouraging your students to become your friends on these things, I think you've crossed a line. And I don't know if our policy can go to that degree where we say you can have your own Facebook page, but you can't have students be your friends kind of thing. You might be public still and students might be able to find it, but at that bare minimum, you certainly shouldn't be encouraging them to be participating in seeing what you have to say, especially if you're going to be controversial. But that being said, I still think we need something like a professional development where everybody gets a real good understanding of what is and isn't going to be acceptable in this district when it comes to public posts and where you could be. We have to do it for other things like sexual harassment and whatever. I don't see why we're not doing it for this as well.
Dr. Maleko? Did you have some comments? Oh, Trustee
Just
Barry.
make a quick statement here before we move forward. This was just a perfect example where our partners, our parents come in and bring something to our attention and we discuss it, the seven of us. So first of all, thank you, parents. Maybe Dr. Maleko, if you can have David email us the policy that we just, updated last year. We do have a meeting Thursday night, the policy committee. Maybe that's something we need to revisit, and from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of other issues that we didn't think about last year. Maybe we can, maybe not get to it Thursday, but at least have it in our hand Thursday and move forward. Thank you.
And I was just gonna say, I support all the comments by the trustees, and again, we're role models. And what I was gonna say is I'll work with, not only the cabinet, but the union heads. I have a meeting coming up. And I know in the past, they've helped to get the word out about, and they support it as well, educating their members to be careful with what's posted, and they've done that in the past, when we had these things, and social media has changed. Now, the only thing I will say with some of the social media, and we do have policies, and we can look at that, and I believe we have looked at, like the Facebook. But some of the ones that the students are mainly on, like, for example, Instagram, you just follow and you're not really accepting anything, or like Twitter. Facebook is set differently depending, and every social media is a little different. And I will say the students trained me on, Instagram, and they follow me. I have a huge student following. But again, the way my litmus test is, mine's going anywhere in the world, and I'm comfortable, and all I'm gonna do is put positive things up. That's all I do. That's what I promote to my daughter that's in college right now. And you're right, what can, and Trustee Thorpe, or President Thorpe, I think you mentioned it, in our, when we hire staff for employment, we do social media checks, and I know multiple is part of the requirement. So anything posted out there is. So, and I will assure, in general, any situations that our staff is engaged in, we have, and I'm not gonna speak to any specific situation, because I don't wanna get into personnel with a specific employee, but in general, we've presented here, we have progressive disciplinary. And everyone is given an opportunity to have it documented and an opportunity to improve. And if things don't improve, then it goes to the next level. It depends on the severity of whatever that infraction may be, not just social media posts, but other things. It gets a little dicey because of First Amendment and other things with social media, but we still don't hesitate to take action with any of our employees that we see. And for that matter, if we saw a student with bullying or other things, we have policies and things that we wouldn't hesitate to intervene, and we will continue to do that. So I appreciate the trustees mentioning it. It'll be on our cabinet agenda for further discussion, along with the cybersecurity that Mr. Addy is bringing forward. But I do agree we could probably do some promotion and some training. I appreciate Trustee Petlicoff, Trustee Berry, all of your comments for that. Thank you.
All right. Next item, please.
Oh, wait, can I
Oh.
just make a clarification for the one about the interlocal agreement? Because
Okay.
there was some statements
Oh, yes,
that
the
were
interlocal
said.
agreement.
This contract has absolutely no grade level interpretation built into it. It talks about if cameras are accessible during an emergency, then they would be made accessible for the police department in that instance. So it doesn't separate out elementary, middle school, and high school. It's wherever the cameras are. that, you know, if there's a camera in the hallway or in a outside door. So we are not ignoring the elementary and only focusing on the high school. Number one, with this interlocal agreement, it has no specifications whatsoever to do with grade levels or buildings. The agreement also states very clearly, and this was because we went back and people wanted to tighten this up a little bit, the parties' participation in such an agreement will enhance the safety of students, staff, visitors, and community members and aid in the identification of intruders committing serious crimes that may cause physical harm or in medical emergencies. We did that intentionally to take out the pranking and the cafeteria fight option. We're only, would we begin using this in the event that there was going to be serious physical harm with, in the school property, that there was a camera located there and it would help the police intervene. It wasn't just an active shooter agreement. That was the initial concern that sparked the interest in having the conversation. But we took it to the point where if there's any kind of serious physical harmful environment and there was a camera available that the police could find useful, they would do it. So I just wanted to clarify what this agreement is and is not. And it isn't about going after high school students who are troublemakers.
Thank you.
I have a question about that. So if we would like to make any modifications to that agreement, how would that be? Do we put those again? Would it go back to
Well,
our
this is already
protocol?
before city council.
I understand, but if we.
So in the future,
Right, we would like to make modifications to it. So do we initiate those changes and then we approve them and then we send them again to city council?
my assumption is that we would actually have the, because there's the committee, the city relations committee, we would have it go to them and probably work through some language with the city before we actually approve our side, just to make sure that anything that we put in isn't gonna be completely foreign or objected to by the other side. That would be my assumption. But I think this is something that it's a living document, and we're gonna have to see how this progresses.
We don't even know if
Anything
city council is going to
Right.
approve it, so,
Right.
you know, we've started the
I
process.
just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we have the option to edit or to add anything that we would see fit if that arises in the
We,
future.
well, we know that we've got, either party has the ability to get out of it at any
Right.
time.
Correct, but it doesn't say that we can make changes to it.
I think that President Thorpe is correct, though. I think that would go to the City Relations Committee, because that's where this was first discussed. And then you would bring, I've been to some of those meetings, you bring your concern to that committee, and you have the discussion there, and you find out if there's an issue with why that couldn't happen, or what, maybe it's better if we do it this way, or whatever. I do think that that's the right body to initially bring that, and then we could.
Trustee Barry?
What I'm hearing Trustee Moses say is maybe like in the future, 2-3 months, if it gets approved tomorrow, or if it doesn't get, whatever. His question is, what I'm hearing is, if 2-3 months down the road, we're not happy with something, the way it's being handled, can we change it? My answer would be, of course we can change
Yes.
it. No doubt in my mind that we can change it. I mean, it actually takes just 4 of us to cancel that contract if we wanted to. So if we wanted to change it, we can have a discussion. It's probably a good idea to start with city relation. Then there'll be a recommendation to come out of that committee. Then we have a discussion at this level, and whatever we decide to do, we do. So that's what I'm hearing you say, and that's my
The one thing that I would add is that normally the city relations committee might meet twice a year, and scheduling it is a bit of a bear. So we would just ask to expedite it depending on what item we're considering. Any additional comments before we move on?